This show is in memory of Rowdy Roddy Piper. Yeah, that one's rough. Rob, that's not an easy one.
Yeah, there was, you and I have seen a lot of wrestlers unfortunately go in our lifetime, but this one's a big shock, and this one really, really came out of left field. First of all, Kevin, how did you find out about the unfortunate news?
A listener of ours, a listener who is probably listening right now, Fred Couture, Trespass112, if I'm not mistaken, on Twitter. He tweeted me today, just that he passed away. And I was traveling and working today, so I was really out of it a little bit. And I
Yeah.
texted you right away when I found out with an exclamation mark, because I still hadn't had confirmation. I was almost asking you. And I was like, wow, Roddy's gone. And of course, a bad pun came to my head that everyone's got to pay the piper. Even Rowdy can't escape it. But Rowdy was something special for me, Rob. Roddy Roddy Piper was, for me, my favorite action figure as a kid. One of the icons I remember. The icon I remember. And any stint, the song that we just heard, The Greenfield of Tyrol, his intro song has been significant with him for the last 40 years. That song has something to give you goosebumps, to make your hair raise on your arms and your chest. And today, listening to that song, it got to me. Roddy Roddy Piper died of a heart attack, 61 years old. Was found. It happened during the night Thursday, in his sleep, basically. So maybe the best death ever. But his body was found Friday morning, so 12 hours ago. Unfortunately, in his house in Hollywood, California. It makes me so sad, Rob. It's so sudden. He was on TMZ 2 days ago interviewing. He won his podcast. July 13th was the last episode he made.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to talk about the whole controversy of how he got fired, when he got fired into Steve Austin. I think let's just forget the last 2 weeks of his life. Maybe not the 2 weeks of his life, but that last controversy and that trying to work. We're not going to like shy away from. Like Roddy Piper is an icon. But he's a crazy man. It's very complicated. Very it hurts, Rob. It's hard for me to put words to it.
Well, for me, Kevin, I was at work tonight, and as many servers will do, whenever you have a free moment, you'll just kind of go to the back and check your phone.
Go to the bathroom, check your phone.
Yeah, we've all done that. Anyone in the service industry said it. And when I looked up, my phone had been like 5 or 6 messages just saying Roddy Piper, and I'm like, oh fuck, he died. And then I quickly Googled it, and we were busy, so I didn't have a lot of time to really, check it out that much. But I seen how he died, and that he did die, and I remember telling one of my bosses, KJ, someone that you know.
Say shout out to KJ.
Yeah, and I just told him that Roddy Piper died, and he's like, no. And then one of my other managers was in the earshot, dude, and he's a lot younger. He's about 10 years younger than I am, so he doesn't, he knew. I don't know if he knew who really Roddy Piper was, but I remember coming up to me like a half an hour later, and he's like, Rob, you look like visibly upset about this. I'm like, you know what? I go, I am. I am, because as stupid as it may sound to you, and as stupid as it may sound to anybody, when we're watching somebody on TV or, we're playing with our action figures, these people, these wrestlers, and it's not just wrestlers, it's sports stars, it's whoever you look up to. These people become a part of your life. And although they're not there with you physically.
They're technically part of your life, but they're part of your life.
Yeah. And I'm like, I was a little upset about it. And, it sucks, and it is what it is, unfortunately. But yeah, that's how I heard about it, and it really put a damper on the rest of my night. And I unfortunately I don't work with too many big huge wrestling fans, at least not on the level of like you and I. So it was hard for me to kind of like I want to just talk about Piper shit, talk about WrestleMania 1 and that kind of stuff.
I was working tonight, and when I learned the news, I lost my mojo. I was in such a good mood today, and I lost my happiness in a way. I still was moving on and doing what I need to do, but damn, it was. I didn't have nobody to talk about it. I told people like, "You remember this guy?" I showed pictures. Like, no, not really. I'm like, oh man, I just needed to talk about someone to. I almost feel grief. It's for some reason. I know the listeners don't care about how I feel about Roddy Piper. That's not necessarily the point of this show, but damn, it feels like a part of. Like, it feels like a distant uncle died. That you missed opportunity. Like, I never got a chance to see the guy. I never got a chance to talk to him. He wasn't really old. He seemed like in good shape. He did have Hodgkin lymphoma in 2006 was diagnosed, but it was taken care of early because he was then on the road with Ric Flair as tag team champions with WWE Tour. So that was different. But it seems so sudden, and I have to say, yes, he didn't have necessarily the best of life habits in his past, and must have led to do something, or of course the amount of punishment the body takes over the years. He's from one of the last of that era of the guys who learned the real shoot. You never know. He was a small guy in in the world of giants, starting as early as 17 years old, if not even earlier. Like documented, he started at 17-year-old. But if you just listen to what he was saying, he started way earlier. It's going to be so interesting to read Dave Meltzer's biography of Roddy Piper. I just feel bad for everybody involved. I feel bad for Cole Tombs, who was creating a nice niche with his father on the indies, trying to get the famous proverbial rub off his father to kickstart his wrestling career. And it's just, you got Dusty Rhodes 2 months ago, and now you have, not even 2 months ago, and now
not even a month ago at this point. Well, maybe about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, exactly. And now you have Roddy Piper, and it's just a shame. It's too bad. 61 years old, Rob. Nobody deserves to die at this stage.
Absolutely not. And you know what it is, Kevin? And you kind of say that, we don't know these people, and you kind of say that it is like a distant uncle dying. But I think the biggest thing is when guys like Roddy Piper and Dusty Rhodes and guys like this pass away, these are people that we watch as children. And as odd as it may sound, when these people die, that's just another part of our childhood dying. And you and I are both in our, early to mid 30s right now, and we're still relatively young men. But obviously we're not children anymore. But each time something like this happened, it just kind of puts another, I don't want to say nail in the coffin because I don't want to use that analogy, but I will say it closes another window on like our childhood.
You know what I tweeted today?
What's that?
My childhood is dying one by one.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, you said it best when you said, we all got to pay the piper at some point, and it's just, it kind of makes you remember that, unfortunately our time here is limited, and yeah, and these people, it's going to happen more and more, and unfortunately there's going to be more specials like this that you and I are going to have to do that we don't want to do. But yeah, I think this is a tough one to swallow, because there, with Dusty, Dusty was a bigger guy, and not that you say you weren't surprised that it happened, but I mean, I think the Piper one came way out of left field.
Yeah. All right. Let's listen to one of our favorite promos from Piper. Let's listen to the Cow Palace promo, and we'll come back and talk about his wrestling matches, his style, what we liked about him in the ring.
The very controversial host of Piper's Pit, Rowdy Roddy Piper. Mr. Piper, I would stick around, but you're going to have to excuse me. I have to go to the men's room. I'll be right back. Thank you.
Oh, going home? Oh, my goodness, that's fine. Cow Palace. You can go to the men's room in the Cow Palace. That's a wonderful name in San Francisco, because the Cow Palace is someplace that I would be proud to call my home. Cow Palace is someplace that I'd be proud to bring my gal. Because obviously, if you live in San Francisco and you are going out with gals, obviously they belong in the Cow Palace. I saw one, the only thing she was missing was antlers. She would have been in season, Jack, man. I saw her coming up to me, asking me for a date. I says, man, I'm Hot Rod. Are you kidding me? He said, yeah, but aren't you the one that's going to fight Mr. Wonderful? I says, yeah, I'm going to fight Mr. Blunderful. They says, but aren't you the one that's going to fight him with all them wrestlers around the ring? I says, yeah, that's me. He says, don't you know what he's thinking? Of course. Yeah, I know what he's thinking. Absolutely nothing, man. When he's in a room alone, he is all alone. You see, you forget, I rode with him. I know what an idiot this guy is. I know his moves. Oh, yes, he's tough. I know he's tough. You think I ain't, man? I've been around. You know that. I've been there before. He's tough enough to go and bench press 500 pounds. Who really cares, man, huh? Your idea here of a wrestling match here, you got 12 wrestlers around the ring. You got dancing midgets and leathers. You got everything that you've ever wanted in a match. You know why I signed this? Incidentally, it didn't take me 2 months to sign this match. No. It didn't take me 2 months to make up my mind, brother. No. I said, you want me to fight somebody? I'll fight anybody. Who do you want? Just let me fight him. Orndorff says, well, I'm going to take my time. It's going to take me about 2 months, and I'm going to go right now and go to the bathroom and think about it, and now I'm back. Right there. It's your idea of Orndorff's father. You see, that's going to happen after you fight me. There's going to be nothing left of you except for old and bald and ugly. You ain't going to be no Hot Rod. You're just going to be somebody that can't keep his bladder empty.
Thank you very much, Rowdy Roddy Piper.
And we're back here on the Rowdy Roddy Piper Tribute Show. Rob, Roddy Piper had a different style in the actual ring. In the word of Dave Meltzer, he's an old school wrestler. He was trained by Judo Gene LaBelle, as well as other wrestlers. He was an old school one, never left his feet. He was a brawler, a striker, a fighter, never used to talk about matches. No, he was talking about fights. And I think it's, we don't have necessarily one match, or because Piper's match were not necessarily 5-star matches. They were brawl, they were fight, they were believable. And he's one of the last of the Mohicans where he was trained to always make it feel believable almost to this day. And I think maybe that's one of the legacies of Roddy Piper.
And not only that, but he was an old school wrestler. But when it came to his promo and his interview and his mic skills, he was way ahead of his time. And we just heard in that promo. And another thing that we heard in that promo is guys like you and I, Kevin, again in our 30s, we forget, and I don't, not necessarily, but we forget, but we really only knew Piper as the babyface. We didn't know Piper as the consummate heel when he was feuding, because I was 4 years old when he cut that promo, right? And by the time I got into wrestling, Piper was a babyface. You forget how many wrestlers, and to this day, emulated Roddy Piper's heel persona, because Piper played it so well that he knew what his job was, that he wanted to talk people into the building to see him get his ass kicked. And he did that in that promo.
when you look at Piper too, it's a mix of a lot of different characters mixed into one. The delivery style, almost a Joker type of style, and it's very different. You look at him, everything about him, from his looks, his talk, the way he walks with the limp and the leg drag and the kilt and the blue trunk underneath, and all the pageantry around Roddy Piper, music included, made him stand out. And he was not the most muscular guy. He was not. He was big once or twice, but he was not the Hulk Hogan type or that type. But it's because of everything else that he stand out. He stood out, and I think it's one of the reasons why he left that such a big a mark.
Yeah, and you talk about his entrance. I urge people to check out WrestleMania 1 and his entrance there, where you would only see like the faces get these grand elaborate entrances, but Piper had like all these bagpipe players like come out and drums and everything, and he had such a great entrance, and it's great. It's one of my favorite, most iconic Roddy Piper moments, where I just remember him walking out from watching WrestleMania 1 and just him walking out smugly shaking his head.
That's what I remember about Piper, Rob.
Yep.
Him walking out.
Yeah.
Him walking out. WWE, WCW, remember in the Nitro days? Mm-hmm. Used to, out of the fucking blue.
Yeah, you know what that sound
He comes out. You're like, holy fuck, it's Roddy Piper.
That WrestleMania 1, when he comes out and he's kind of got that smug look on his face and he's shaking. I used to walk into class doing that, and it's just funny that something like that you see, it just sticks with you. He was way ahead of his time in his promos. He was an old school fighter. His book's great. I've read his book. I know that I'm looking forward to seeing what the network has to put out, because I know they'll do the right thing and they'll put together something like they did with Dusty, and they did a great job producing that. And yet there's a lot of things, and not only that, Kevin, but you can spend hours and hours on YouTube just watching old Piper stuff.
And there's Piper's Pit. We did not even mention Piper's Pit yet. It's 18 minutes into the show, Rob, and we did not mention one of the biggest legacies that he brought with those TV shows inside a wrestling program. Yeah. Piper's Pit led to a whole foray of different, from Piper's Pit to Jericho's Reel, all the way to the barbershop, to all of them. And back then they had all very elaborate decoration. Remember, who can forget the barbershop, but where Jannetty threw himself through the window.
He tried to escape through the window. Jannetty tried to escape through the barbershop window.
But that was elaborate set. And that was all started by the Piper.
Yeah, and not only that, but another thing I remember when I think of Piper, and oddly enough, I always think of Cowboy Bob Orton. And that pairing was really, really good, too, because you had Piper, who was the mouthpiece, and you had Orton, who didn't say as much, but he was the bodyguard. And if you watch those Piper Pit segments, I always used to love watching Piper just run his mouth. And then Bob Orton would be in the background with the cast with his arms folded, just kind of, don't fuck with my boy. And it's funny because I always kind of put those two together. And you might not think of Piper with anybody, but whenever I think of Piper, I always think of Bob Orton. And I always thought those two worked well together. And Bob Orton was actually a guest on Piper's podcast not too long ago, and I urge people to check out that interview because they have a lot of great road stories, obviously. But yeah, even when Piper was. Even in his WCW run, he still had a lot of
in the ring it sucked.
longevity.
But outside of that, I thought the ring wasn't bad.
Yeah, those matches with Hogan weren't obviously 5-star mat classics, but they told the story. And at the end of the day, Kevin, in wrestling, things don't have to be 5-star wrestling classics. They just have to tell a story and keep your interest. And let's face it, back then in WCW, they were kicking WWF's ass in the ratings, so that's what it really did.
We're talking about Piper's Pit. There's one famous Piper's Pit. That I think we need, because I think it's one of the legacies as well of Roddy Piper, the Coconut Piper's Pit. Why don't we listen to this, Rob?
Absolutely.
We would like to caution you about viewing this piece. It is not a pretty sight at all, so please, those of you, be forewarned. Let's take you now to the videotape.
Very simple. All of a sudden, we got a bunch of people writing in. This guy here comes, I don't know, maybe comes sniveling to the people, comes and cries, Roddy Piper didn't give me a chance to say nothing on the pit. Roddy Piper didn't give me a chance to do nothing. You want a chance? Everybody wants to be like Roddy Piper. You want a chance? You want a chance to say something, brother? I'll tell you what, man. Here you go. Take the little microphone. There you go. There you go. Put it in the little greasy paws. You want to do something, then you go ahead. You say exactly what you want to say to these people. You can do. Just a second. I want you to, wait a second. I want to make you feel at home. Before we start, you want to be the big shot. You want to do all the talking. You want to really think. All these people, got yourself a pineapple. Want you feel at home. Want you feel like the Fiji Islands. Kind of like the women, you know? Kind of long, frosty hair on top, round on the bottom. Got your pineapple. You want to be a happy person? What do you want, huh? What do you want? You want bananas? You want to talk? Go ahead and talk, huh? Go ahead and talk. Wait a second. Wait. You want bananas? You want bananas? We got bananas. Here we go. You want bananas? Have yourself a banana. Huh? This is what you want. You want to talk? You ain't saying nothing. What's wrong, huh? You want to come up here like a big shot? What do you want? You want coconuts. Here I went. I got your coconuts. Just like, there you go. One coconut. Two coconuts. More coconuts. You want to be a big shot. You want to go, wait a second. Bananas and coconuts. You want to be a big shot. You know what? The only thing I didn't get a tree for you to climb up and down like a monkey, like you want to do. You want to be a big shot? I'll get you a tree next time. You want a banana? Have a banana. What do you want, man? Am I making fun of you? Whoa, no, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Oh, what about that promo?
Well, Kevin, that promo was obviously you can't do it today, but Piper was really playing again one of the best heels. He's really going after. He's saying stuff like throwing bananas at him and saying, "I want you to feel like at home. Here's all these coconuts." There's no way you could get away with that today.
I'm making you a fruit salad. You don't want to talk to these people.
But again, what a way to get over. What a way to get yourself heat. What a way to. And we heard McMahon at the beginning about the warning he wanted to give, and again, Piper just nails it. Everything about it's perfect. The coconut to the head, and it's one of the most. I know I'm not just talking about in WWE. In Piper, but it's one of the most iconic shots in WWE history. You see it constantly, no matter what.
You remember the "Oh my God" top 50 incidents?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a top 2.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, Kevin, that I've seen 100 times before I actually sat down and watched the whole segment. You know what I mean? If that's how much of an impact that coconut shot has had on the wrestling world, that I can see something that much, just that snippet, and then finally one day I'm like, fuck, I gotta sit down and watch this whole segment.
And that's 30 years ago, by the way.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not going to sit here and say shit that people don't know and how great of a promo Piper was, and because we've kind of already touched upon it. But yeah, I think that's the most iconic one of all time, and it's one of my favorites. And it's not just from Piper, but I'm just talking in WWE because it does such a good job of getting Piper heat, and that's one thing that guys today are missing. And we're not here to talk about what's wrong with wrestling today. We'll save that for our regular show. This is a celebration of Roddy Piper's life. But you really want to compare today's talent to talents back then. Piper did it. So people wanted to fucking strangle Piper for doing that kind of stuff, and you can't really understand that. And we can't understand it because we weren't there live. But I mean, just watching, with Dave Meltzer and hearing him talk about stuff back then, and even Piper and his DVD. Talking about stuff back. I can't really appreciate it, I don't think.
No, absolutely. And what we don't appreciate too is the amount of heat that they really got with the fans. Fans wanted to beat them up. They would get attacked at parking lots in their normal daily life. They would get attacked by angry fans because back then there was really not a big difference between yourself and your gimmick. You was yourself. You was your gimmick 24/7, 365 a year. And
The
that's
business was
what
protected.
Yes, but that was really played with their mental too. No reason a lot of them went crazy over the years because you become paranoid because you think everybody's against you because for a certain time everybody was against him.
Jim Cornette actually had to, when he brought in, this is obviously in the NWA, I almost said NWOA, but Jim Cornette had to bring in Big Bubba Rogers, Ray Traylor, another person we've obviously lost way too soon. When he brought him in as his bodyguard, yeah, he was legit protecting Jim Cornette when they would go into arenas and stuff. So it's kind of the same thing where, again, Bob Orton said something about how there was nights where they were worried that him and Piper were going to get stabbed coming out of arenas and how people would throw chairs and stuff at them. There is no way. I seen a picture today of Hunter and Stephanie posing with some kid in a grocery store or something. And yeah, and just, I get it is what it is today, but I'm like, you guys are supposed to be the evil authority heel figures. I'm like, what happened to protecting kayfabe? And I know there's no such thing as kayfabe in 2015. I get that, but I'd like to think that there is, and I'd love to go back to this period of time in wrestling when Piper smacked Snuka with the thing, and you just want to. They do such a good job of making you hate it, but it's not like that anymore because now the heels are loved and revered, right?
Yes, and it's the faces that are hated, and it's the face that get heat. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. But what I remember mostly for Rowdy Roddy Piper, if we can sum up his career before we move on to a couple of movies we liked with him in it, if you talk about how he did with promos, with matches, his delivery was one of the things I'll always remember. The way he delivered his promo. He was scripted in WWE most of the time, but being an actor, he was great with it. His delivery is awesome. Yes, in the 80s he was creating those promos. Later on it changed. But those early, mid-80s promo, 84, 85, 86, Ric Flair, Andre the Giant, Paul Orndorff, obviously, and Hogan. The promos he cuts on them, on Piper's Pit, or just with Mean Gene. I love the Mean Gene one because he always takes stabs at Mean Gene at the same time, like we heard earlier. Those is really the promos that define Roddy Piper for me. That, the delivery and the pageantry is what I remember from Roddy. And for me, it's one of the things I miss too. It's not what it used to be, but of course, it's nostalgia talking. But that pageantry, it's only once a year at the WrestleMania now. But I just miss the whole Piper confidence, attitude, I don't give a fuck, that type of thing. I was never a guy who liked the rebel, but I like the guy who stands up for himself. And Roddy Piper always stood up for himself. Maybe too much, but he always stood up for himself.
And the good thing was, when Piper turned face, he still had all these promos, but just instead of attacking baby faces, he was attacking the heels. There's a great, hilarious promo, and I urge people to find it. It's the promo that Piper cuts on the Mountie at Royal Rumble 92, before Piper wins his only title, singles title in WWE, when he wins the Intercontinental Championship. And yeah, it was just hilarious, and it's one of my favorite promos to watch as far as Piper as a face, because it's just really, really, really funny. So people can find that on YouTube or watch it. It'll be on the network on Royal Rumble 92. It's right before the Piper Mountie Intercontinental title match. It's really, really funny, and it just kind of puts into perspective. Yeah, Piper can cut these great heel promos, but he can also cut a great babyface promo too, and do the same things he did as a heel, but now he's attacking the heels and still putting himself over, as giving himself heat still, but in a different kind of way. And that is the mark of a true professional, when you can get yourself heel heat where people want to hate you, but you can get yourself babyface heat where you're like, oh my God, what's the fucking heel gonna do to this guy? You know what I mean? It works two ways, and Piper played it like a violin masterfully.
You know what? Let's just listen to it and come back and talk about some movies.
You know, I'm the kind of guy that's gotta lose it for a while to find myself. I am the first guy in history to go after both major titles in one night. The Mountie, this Sunday. Mountie says, you're gonna find out what the Mountie's made out of. Forget it, Jack. Everybody knows what RP's made out of, and I don't want to find out what you're made out of. Matter of fact, if I had time to, I wouldn't want to be like you.
Rob, They Live, a great cult movies. It seems like Roddy Piper always seems to find his way into movies like 3 or 4 that became cult classic.
Yeah, obviously They Live is the biggest.
John Carpenter, 1987.
Yeah, it's obviously the biggest movie that Piper was in, and
Lead role.
lead role. And this is where he kind of disappeared after WrestleMania 3 to film They Live. And then everyone thought Piper kayfabe retired, but he came back, which was awesome. He wasn't at WrestleMania 4, but he made his reappearance at WrestleMania 5. Basically, quickly, the movie's about aliens
taking over.
Yeah, and Piper has these pairs of sunglasses and he
Very
can see.
conspiracy theory in 2015, we would say, but back then it was called differently. But it's when you watch it, it still holds up today.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of parody in it. And there's a famous line in this movie, Kevin, that everybody knows.
Come on. I came here to chew gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum.
Yes. One of the most, probably one of my favorite lines, and you can. It just kind of sums up Piper in a nutshell, because you could really see him saying this line to somebody.
He's still saying it, and you know what?
Kevin,
if you want to help the estate of Roddy Piper, we'll talk about Cold Tombs. You can still buy right now the All Out of Bubblegum Soda Pop from sodapop.com. So why not encourage a business, a venture that's probably actually going to help Cold Tombs as well.
Yeah, and not only that, Kevin, but I mean, you can still go out. You can listen to Piper's podcast. He's going to have, obviously, all of his episodes archived. Go, download them all. Whip through them all, just kind of. Piper's podcast is really, really good because it's Roddy Piper. One of my favorite episodes, and I don't know if you ever listened to it, Kevin, was the episode he did a 2-part interview with Vince Russo. And him and Vince Russo did not get along, and it was so real to listen to. It was not that they had animosity towards each other on the podcast, but there was times where Piper demanded answers for shit that Russo did. About the Owen Hart thing, and a lot of the times shit got really, really, really real. And I was entranced in this. It's one of the best interviews I've ever heard, and it's on Piper's podcast. I urge you guys to check out all those episodes. But if you're going to check out one, check out the Vince Russo one, which is amazing. And, and keep Roddy's memory alive. And
get
watch
a Hot Rod T-shirt.
Yeah,
with the red collar and red at the end of the sleeves, and the Hot Rod on the front.
Or the Black Panther shirt that he wore at WrestleMania 1. Watch this stuff. Talk about it with your friends. If you have a friend who likes wrestling, he's like, I didn't know much about Roddy Piper. Maybe it's a younger guy. Throw on a match for him. Show him these promos. There's so much you can do to keep this guy's memory alive. And I'm more than confident that the wrestling fandom. There's one thing that wrestling fans are, Kevin. And especially wrestling fans like us. We complain about shit. We can be not fickle, but you can never please us. But when something like this happens, the community really, really comes together. Because at the end of the day, in a weird way, the IWC or any wrestling fan, we're all a family, because we're all connected by the love of the business, right? And it's taboo, and it's wrestling, and people have this thought about wrestling, and the people who watch it, and we have that in common, that we all kind of fight for this business that we love, and we're all kind of joined like that. And unfortunately, when tragedy happens, it brings us all together in a weird way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, Rob. All right, there's nothing more we could really say about Roddy Piper without going in his career details, and I can't go through that without going through a box of Kleenex.
No.
So I think, Rob, we should wrap this up for tonight. Let's listen to that famous All Out of Bubblegum promo. And until next time on Down the Aisle Wrestling Podcast, for Robbie Mack, I'm Kevin Laramie. Love your loved ones. Take care of them. Tell them you love them. You never know what's going to happen. And be careful when you take that bump.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. and I'm all out of bubblegum.